Hello and welcome back to Bookish. Today I'm here with the latest edition of Poetry for Beginners, a series about poetry for people who really don't have a long background in reading poetry, which I'm doing with Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading, and I believe Mark from Words Everywhere is joining us this month, and hopefully he'll be a participant in the months and days moving forward. Our poet of the month is Anne Sexton. And the poem of hers I chose is called I Remember. Anne Sexton is one of the generation of poets which includes Sylvia Plath, and she is usually considered to be one of the confessional poets. She lived a difficult life, and like Plath, she suffered from severe depression. She grew up in a relatively affluent home, but not a very happy home. It's possible that she was the victim of abuse from her parents. She married very young, only attended college for a brief period of time, and she had two children. And it was, I believe, after the birth of her first child that she was institutionalized the first time because she was suffering from postpartum depression. This then was the beginning of a long series of hospitalizations and attempted treatments for severe depression, which Anne Sexton suffered from. This all came to an end when she, at the age of 46, committed suicide. She probably wouldn't have written it all, though, unless she'd gone to therapy, because apparently it was one of her therapists, one of her doctors, that suggested that writing would be a help to her in her recovery and help her to deal with her depression. And man, did she write. She wrote a lot of poetry, and a lot of that poetry is in the confessional style. About, in some ways, her own problems, her struggle with depression, her struggles with her own family. It's not all like that, but a lot of it is. So, the poem I chose, I Remember, is not like that at all. And to a certain extent, I've been talking to Kelly and Mark about this on Foxer. To a certain extent, I feel like I'm kind of copping out in choosing this poem, I Remember. But one of the things I kind of told myself when we started doing the series was that I would only talk about poems to which I felt some connection. And I'm not sure if it's because we already did Sylvia Plath that Sexton's poetry didn't seem to, a lot of Sexton's poetry I should say, didn't really seem to land with me, connect with me. But this poem did. And so this is a poem that I chose to talk about and to read strictly because I like it. So here's the poem. I remember. By the 1st of August, the invisible beetles began to snore, and the grass was as tough as hemp, and was no color. No more than the sand was a color, and we had worn our bare feet bare since the 20th of June. And there were times we forgot to wind up your alarm clock, and some nights we took our gin warm and neat from old jelly glasses while the sun blew out of sight like a red picture hat. And one day I tied my hair back with a ribbon, and you said that I looked almost like a Puritan lady. And what I remember best is that the door to your room was the door to mine. Okay, this is just one of those poems which, affected me on, I think, an emotional level by reminding me of things, and for the most part reminding me of pleasant things. And so my breakdown of the poem is going to be incredibly quickly. I divide the poem into three parts. The first part of the poem begins with, it obviously begins at the beginning, and it ends with the date, June the 20th. This is more or less the span of summer, from the official beginning of summer into the incredibly hot days of August, as sometimes are referred to as the dog days of August. And so the imagery at the beginning of the poem is all of things coming to an end, of all of things, it's all about things that are not colorful or full of life. The grass is as tough as hemp, it's as colorless as sand. Their bare feet are worn bare, literally like worn from walking around all summer without shoes on. Even the imagery of the beetles snoring, indicating the beetles are that things have gone to sleep and things have passed and the day is over, I think are evocative of the idea that that it's clear in the poem that Sexton is looking back on a summer which she enjoyed a lot, but which is summer which is over. And so the imagery is all about that coming to an end. The second third of the poem, or probably more like most of the middle of the poem, is all about those kind of random memories that I think that we have of summer or of romance or of love's past that, you know, are those kind of seemingly insignificant things that we remember that make those things special. The line that got me was about drinking warm gin out of jelly jars. You know, a long time ago, and in families like mine, when you emptied a jar of jelly, you used the glass jar for a cup, and you drank out of it. The idea of drinking the warm gin, that kind of impromptu feeling of summer, where you're not really prepared for everything. Let's see, the timelessness of it, as is indicated by not winding the alarm clock because time didn't seem to matter. The, you know, memory of the kind of romantic memories of what someone might say about you, or you remember what somebody said to you about a way that you looked or a way that you wore your hair. Those are those kind of things which I think make romantic memories, summer memories stick out. It's not the carefully planned things, it's not the big events, it's those little moments and those little phrases which seem to evoke and stick in our memories the longest. And then the final lines of the poem are, to me, you know, incredibly powerful and are really kind of what makes me love this poem. And the final lines of the poem are, and what I remember best is that the door to your bedroom was the door to mine. That what she remembers is those kind of shared moments, that kind of being together, of sharing the same space, of sharing everything, and of sharing memories. And so, you know, it's kind of a wistful, nostalgic, romantic poem about the past, about a summer past or a love past. And for me, it just really appealed to me on a kind of an emotional level. Anyway, there you go. That's Anne Sexton's poem, I Remember. As always, I look forward to your comments in the comments section, and thank you for watching.